All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the stage for our demonstration, Mark Hominick and Jesse Ronson. And switch. I know. Fantastic. You guys are great. That was awesome way to end that too. So I'm giving them 3 minutes each, and then we're gonna do our talk. Cool. Same thing. So. We don't need you. It means I'm doing my job right.
And we're going to call it there, guys. Awesome. Thanks, guys. What do we think of that? Is that fun? I think so.
Sure. Thanks.
These both?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're a little spread apart here, but we're going to have to live with that because we need that space. That was awesome. I'll tell you, when I was shooting at the gym down at Adrenaline with these guys, I've never been that close to actually the spar and actually like in a semi-octagon, which I actually have down at the training center. And the lightning speed and the impact of the hits just absolutely blew my mind, you know. So to be there firsthand and see sort of how these guys get to where they're at physically is really incredible. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, can you tell us a little bit about Adrenaline and why and how that got started up?
Well, we've been in the martial arts business since 2008. So at first we had Sam Stout, Chris Hordecki, myself, Jesse Ronson. We were fighting at the high level. We were fighting in the UFC, and we kind of needed a great training place where we all could come together. And it was a bit of a hub for Southwestern Ontario for a lot of the top fighters that come, and it spawned a lot of champions.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And having been down there, I've never been to anything like that. I've never seen any of the equipment when I was down there. And Jesse was showing me some of the different things that they can train with down there. It's just stuff that you've never seen before at any other normal kind of gym. That just targets and focuses, what these guys seem to need. What I just want to ask Jesse, because Jesse's just come back from a major fight in Quebec. What is, just thinking back across all of the fights that you've had, what would you say is your most profound fight memory? What sticks out of all the different fights that you've ever had in your head?
What sticks out the most is probably my most recent one because I made history. I became a double champ, the 155 and 170 champ, so simultaneously at the same time. Nobody's ever done that in the TKO organization. TKO's made a lot of champions: George St. Pierre, David Loiseau, Patrick Cote, Mark Hominick, Sam Stout. A lot of guys that went on to have huge success in the UFC. However, none of them were double champs, so that was my most profound moment there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's an incredible achievement. Something that I'd like to ask both of you, actually. When you're growing up, when you're going through this, can you tell us about sort of that journey, about coming up and through the ranks and starting? I mean, we all have to start somewhere, right? I'm sure there's people out there that you've been inspired by, and I'm sure there's probably people out here that are inspired by you. So can you kind of tell us about that journey a little bit?
For myself, when I fought for the world title in 2011 at the Skydome or the Rogers Center, I always thought it was kind of like a 15-year overnight success. It's like you put your grind for the 15 years kind of in the dark for that one moment, and there's a lot of ups and downs on the road, that's for sure. It's an unforgiving sport. If you look at boxing, you'll see guys with 40 wins and 0 losses, or very, very high amount of wins and 0 losses. Where MMA, there's so many aspects of the game where you could go against a guy who's very dominant on the ground, and that's your weak point. And just matchup-wise, there's a lot of ups and downs. You take a lot more losses in this sport than say in boxing. So it's very humbling, to say the least, because you could be the champion forever, and then you just get that one opponent that just matches up very poorly with you, and you take a couple losses. So it's being able to take that and grow, because it's constant evolution in this game where there's always parts of the sport that you have to improve on. So it's very humbling.
For me, getting into this sport, it was actually these guys, Mark and Sam, and a guy named Nick Rondinelli. My welding teacher back in high school, Mr. Clark, who lives down the street from Mark, would always put videos of their TKO fights, and I was a bit of a scrapper in high school, and I enjoyed that. So they're kind of the reason why I got into it, because Mr. Clark always said, Ronson, you better shape up, or else I'm going to get Mark Hominick down here to give you a beating. And I always said, I'm like, you bring him down here, I'll wrestle him or whatever it is. But then, I started kickboxing, and then when I actually wanted to make a career of this, my coach, Brad Fowler, who's known these guys for a long time and knew their coach, they kind of came up around the same circuit. He said, if you want to get better and you want to take this serious, you got to go to Adrenaline. And when I started going there, I got my ass kicked by I remember the first time I ever sparred with Mark. he had a Canadian champion, you know, bigger guy. He kicked the shit out of me for 3 minutes, and he looked disappointed. He's like, "What the hell was that? I thought you were supposed to be the best." And I was like, I had no idea what I was getting into, and I was like, "Oh, don't you worry. I'll bring it the next round. I'll bring it the next round." And he's like, "Yeah, you better bring it the next round." So, you know, the next round I went to go spar him. I actually had to try as hard as I could just to give this guy a go. But because of these guys, it stepped my game up. And, you know, we've had 5 UFC fighters out of London, Ontario alone. 5 UFC fighters out of London, Ontario alone from that gym. So that goes to show that adrenaline's got what it takes.
That's amazing. If there were people out here who are interested in sort of pursuing this path, even whether it's professionally, whether it's recreationally or whatever, what kind of tips would you or advice would you give them?
You know, I think martial arts is fantastic for anybody. You know, it definitely changed my life as soon as I started. I started in my grade 9 gym class, went to a local martial arts studio, and I signed up that night, and it changed my life. I think martial arts is very good for kids, building confidence, build your fitness, be around very good mentors. I think that's the kind of essence of martial arts training is learning those principles.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It just adds all of that to your life, right? It's not just about the sport, just all of that discipline and everything else. I'm going to turn this out to the audience here and see if anybody has any questions. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add before I do that?
You know, I think, you know, being from London and we've had a lot of local support, and I think this is a great community that it really supports its athletes, and that's one thing, you know, I'm very proud of having the gym here in London and kind of carrying on that tradition.
Yeah. Again, I thank you for inviting us down to the gym. I've never seen anything like that gym. So I mean, I can't encourage anyone enough to go down and just take a look, just check it out. It's something, if you've never been to an actual fighting gym, somewhere where they train all the different martial arts and all the different disciplines, it's really quite something to see.
It's not just a fighting gym. Don't be intimidated by the fighting gym. If you just want to come in and get a good workout, you can do that. We've got all kinds of members that range from just recreational to the very highest level. Chad Lepre's in the UFC, myself and TKO. You know, we've got the best fighters and best trainers that you can get in Mark and Sam and Chris Hordesky and myself, Chad.
One of the things actually that I'd like to add is that actually surprised me, and it may be just something that may be very common, is that you guys actually have a fair amount of women down in the gym there. So what do you guys do to support that?
Yeah, so we do have a women's only program. You know, we do have the women's only jiu-jitsu on a little bit more self-defense end, but also the fitness kickboxing. You know, that's one thing that over the last year, the gym has really grown in the amount of women. And I think, you know, having, you know, women like Ronda Rousey in the sport has really elevated that, you know, it's not that girls can't do it, but they, you know, at that level and become superstars.
Oh,
and,
they absolutely can.
And I think, like I said, it goes back, same with the kids, it builds a lot of confidence. You know, being physically fit and capable of doing things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm just going to switch mics here with Jesse, and I'm going to take this guy out in the audience. Bear with me. And I'm going to hand this off to Wendy here, my helpful companion. And if anybody's got a question for the fighters, just please stick your hand up, and Wendy will pop right over to you.
Is there a very big difference in the atmosphere between recreational and occupational mixed martial arts?
No, I think that's one thing that is that you get to train all the aspects that we do, and it's open to everybody. You know, I think hitting the pads, just like Jesse and I were doing it in the demonstration. You know, anyone can really do that. So it's not like you come in the door and you're sparring in the ring or anything like that. It's more, you know, you give access to the type of training that these professional athletes do, and it's open to everybody in any ability. You know, I do this in the schools as well, so I take it into the classrooms, and like I said, martial arts is fantastic for anyone to try a new sport.
The gym's open for everyone, so if you want to come train with the pros, just to see what it's like to train with some of the pros, you can come do that too. We have practices just for pros that you can come watch. You know, our MMA/pro class, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're open to everybody coming in, seeing what it's like. So if you want to come down, 7 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you get to train with some of the best.
I have a question. What's the most memorable moment in your journey? Someone famous that you met, a great fight that you won? For both Jesse and Mark, what was that defining moment for you?
It was late August 2012. I had just finished eating Burrito Boys. I was feeling, you know, a little heavy. my manager called me and he said, "Hey, what do you weigh right now?" And I stepped on the scale. I was 187 pounds. And he said, "Well, you got 30 days to make 155. And I said, what do you mean? And I'm like, "What's the pay?" And he goes, "It's the most money you've ever made." And then he proceeded to tell me that I got signed to the UFC. And I kind of broke down in tears. And then it hit me, holy shit, I got to lose 31 pounds in 30 days. And I managed to do it. It was probably the worst 30 days of my life, but it was also the most rewarding and gratifying 30 days of my life because I actually got to go to the UFC. I got to meet John Jones, who was in the room beside me. I got to meet Bruce Buffer, all the big stars that, I've been watching on TV that I want to meet other than Mark and Sam. I got to meet them in person, so it was like an entire career's worth of work finally, paying off right then and there.
Yeah, very similar to Jesse. I got to fight in Toronto at the Rogers Centre. It was like a 20-year journey to make it to fight for the world title, and I got to do it an hour and a half from my hometown in front of 55,000 people. So that was pretty special.
Does anybody else have any questions? I'm going to pass the mic back to Mike.
You can ask anything. It's all good. Ask anything.
Where'd you get that hat?
I got this hat at Lids in Masonville. It was a little overpriced.
We're actually out of time, guys. We've got another show coming up here in about 5 minutes, but I'm going to bring these guys back to the Our Clinic booth. They're going to be signing 8x10 glossies over there. There's no charge. Everybody come by if you want to meet the fighters, have a talk, ask questions about the gym, get an autograph. Come on by the booth and check us out.
Thank you.
Thanks
guys.
everybody.
Thank you for watching the Convention Junkies coverage of the 2018 London Comic Con. Please like, comment and subscribe to see more, and let us know below what you think of this video. If you would like to help us with future projects, please visit our Patreon page.